You can start?
I can start. Good morning. We are here with Steve Wilson with Be Clean, and I'm Danette Fritzland, owner of Zone Fitness. We are going to discuss energy and metabolic syndrome this morning. So, Steve, you want to start us out on either one, what you want to start with?
Well, I think we ought to start with energy, in that without energy, we do nothing.
Correct.
That's kind of a simple thing, and how we respond to that is the most interesting I've seen. People tend to move towards stimulants, sugars, caffeines, things of this nature, which actually puts into play this terrible thing that we're going to discuss, metabolic syndrome X. Because what we found in that is where there is that issue, there's a whole bunch of insulin. And from that, we're finding that there's a range of diseases that they can't label. It's anything from cancer to cardiovascular issues. And I would like to suggest that maybe it's our usage of sugar as a energy producer that creates the follow-up, which is metabolic syndrome X, which then metabolizes or works into a host of diseases that's based on your DNA as to what you're going to get.
And can you explain to us a little bit what some of the risks are, or what some of the side effects of when we talk about metabolic syndrome?
Well, we could start with cancer. You know, we're still spending trillions of dollars, it seems, in the research of cancer. And yet, there's plenty of research starting as late as, or as early as 1931, when it was found that where there's the presence of oxygen, there's a lack of cancer. That was a Nobel Prize winning article. So I would just look at it from a logical position and say, gosh, if we could produce oxygen and the lack of sugar, which has now been proven to be the food for cancer, that perhaps we're feeding cancer by just getting energy. And if we could put something in our body that created oxygen and drove down the sugar intake, maybe we could deal with some of these diseases. We also know the cardiovascular issue is at risk with people that are dealing with that amount of sugar. So I think that you could just about work through the whole disease spectrum, from diabetes, obviously, the arthritic issues, the digestive issues. There isn't one that doesn't seem to start with how we make energy. So it's from there, what you're doing here is getting people to energize themselves.
Correct.
But if we could get them to change their diet just a little bit, it would be more effective.
Right. So exercise helps with energy, of course, but diet still, I think, is one of the number one things that people needs to learn more about.
So how are we going to do that? How are we going to discipline or educate people to where it is so profoundly good for them just to simply change and understand diet?
I think to start little. Everybody thinks that when they want to make a change, they want to go huge. You know, I've got to make a huge change. I think we can make little changes for them. A lot of people don't understand just to start eating plant-based food stuff. They don't start with the natural of everything.
And plant-based food in a culture where we're not men if we don't eat meat.
Exactly. You know? It is. It's very difficult.
It's a cultural thing.
Yeah, it's a very cultural thing. A lot of people I get, they talk about how expensive it is, you know, to start eating vegetables. Do you want to cover some of that?
I do. I do, thank you. You know, the most interesting thing, coming off of a farm, how I was raised, with the organics and the things of that nature, but the process as I grew and got off of that program, and the things that followed my disobedience, if you will, to biochemical laws, was a tragedy. And so when I returned to the simplicity of understanding how energy is made, this wonderful thing that one day we'll have to talk about, ATP, is basically made from essential fats and fats. So if we get stuck on such things as carbohydrates making ATP, proteins making ATP, and you know, there's so much dirt, if you will, that's in these products. The side effects of carbohydrates is sugar.
Right.
Side effect of too much protein is uric acid.
Yeah.
So,
Kidneys, yeah.
so why don't we think about, well, what are the effects of really good fats? it's 30 times more efficient than protein or carbohydrates. So if we simply looked at seeds and nuts as a form of essential fats, obviously if we're cleaner internally, then we don't have to have as much energy because we're more efficient.
Correct.
So then we got to talk about the liver and the blood and a host of things that when they come into play and people begin to understand this, if the liver is the fat burner of the body, but it's so busy working on other things, pharmaceuticals and carbohydrates and proteins, it doesn't have enough time to do that. So it builds fat
Right.
and stores it. So those are the things that I see. You're watching it on a daily basis.
Right. So with the metabolic syndrome, since we're kind of talking that, what are some of the things that people can do to help maybe eat, and I know that exercise works, to help give more energy?
Let's start off with the breakfast.
Okay.
It's breaking a fast. If people understood that their body cleans itself at night when they're asleep, and actually we lose weight, we burn fat at night.
Right.
So-
a lot of people don't understand that.
I know we really need to cover that. But in the process of just understanding, don't eat something really heavy like a lot of meat after 6 o'clock at night. And if we have the energy, the ATP, which the heart and all of these organs that function with or without your consciousness, then it would be interesting to say, what would be wrong with a breakfast filled with seeds and nuts and just a little bit of carbohydrate and a little bit of protein that you find in all of these sources?
Right.
You could eat less, and when the body finds out that its satiety is there and it's not hungry, it will turn on the fat molecule and convert it back to energy at an incredible rate. And by doing that, you lose weight
To burn fat and
and do
right,
all of that.
have more energy, burn fat, help with the diseases that are out there that we've been talking about, cardiovascular issues, obesity, diabetes, and I can go on.
I know. And we will one day. But wouldn't it be really interesting to see what the emotional side of that would do? If a person felt better inside, what would they do on the outside?
I think that's a whole topic we could cover.
We can do that.
Yeah.
And we're up to 5 minutes and we're already gone 7.
Yes, exactly.
So, Danette, let's just do this again. And maybe we can find out what our audience is saying and come back with a longer
Yes.
program. So,
All right. Thank you, Steve.
thank you.